This afternoon I was having a pretty good day, so I decided to ruin it by going on Twitter. It's part of my daily routine to check in on Twitter just to make myself mad, as every sane person does, no doubt, and today was nothing special, just endless piles of trash. But while dumpster diving, I found something pretty interesting and alarming. It's a series of posts from a popular streamer named Amaranth. She's massive on Twitch, I'm sure she needs no introduction, I'm positive you all are familiar with her work. She basically invented hot tubs. And on her personal account, she made a series of tweets talking about her stalker. And this shit is fucking scary. It reads like something right out of a Stephen King novel. So I wanted to go over the tweets with all of you, as well as talk about the bigger problem of stalkers on Twitch. Because it's not exclusive to just Amaranth. I think Amaranth has had the most stalkers. She's had like 1,000 stalkers at this point, I think. She's had like an entire fucking football squad worth of stalkers, and that includes third string and bench players. She could fill up an entire Comic-Con convention center with just her stalkers. It's absolutely terrible, and again, it's not just Amaranth. Tons of streamers have talked about their personal experiences with the problem, and one that's always stuck out to me is a really frightening one. I won't name the streamer's name, but there's a streamer on Twitch who has had a problem with a member of her community for almost 4 years now, I believe. And this guy has flown down to her city, uninvited, unannounced, to try and track her down and find her. And while doing that, even broke into another streamer's house while they were streaming, went on their stream and tried to use them to reach out to that streamer on their behalf to track her down for them. Absolute fucking lunacy. And they have also, the stalker has also written a manifesto that's over 400 pages long and still being updated to this day. An actual fucking Harry Potter's book worth of delusion and all about like dating the streamer and all kinds of wild shit in there. It's just straight up horrifying and downright sad. So now let's go through Amaranth's tweets today. This is her alt account. She says that her stalker traveled from Estonia, came to her city and camped out in a hotel with a line of sight to her P.O. box and spent over a month camping out daily at a Starbucks next to the P.O. box and streamed it the entire time. Typically to 0 viewers, but growing as he gained notoriety, and every time his account would be taken down, he would just make a new one. This is already so much to digest right here. 44 days and 33 minutes, according to Amaranth, and I'm guessing that's based on how long the stream was up for, based on VODs and all of that, so it was probably realistically a bit more than that, because I'm sure he was there longer off camera. So that is fucking terrifying. Not only was she being stalked, but he was doing it publicly to an audience. Mind-blowing. Camping out at a nearby Starbucks so that way he could be constantly monitoring the P.O. box, hoping to catch her. Like Elmer Fudd trying to set a trap for Bugs Bunny. But that's just the beginning. She said that he'd change his name by just adding more numbers to it, and by his own admission went full scorched earth and sold everything. He sold his house, his car, all his possessions, his cat, and by his own admission again, in publicly posted vlogs, a manifesto. The only thing he brought with him was phone, clothes on his back, and a saxophone, as well as the saxophone case. And he would play the saxophone in some live streams and in public places, and it allowed him to carry around a giant instrument case, which Amaranth said made her nervous because you can put weapons in an instrument case, and I honestly think it's a pretty reasonable fear to have because it makes no sense that he sold everything else except for a fucking saxophone and its case, unless he was planning on becoming like a traveling saxophone performer, like just going around and playing Careless Whisper forever. It makes no sense why he sold everything except that saxophone in its case. Which I agree is very weird, but I think the most concerning thing here is the fact that he sold all of his shit before moving from Europe to be near Amaranth and try and track her down. The fact that he sold everything prior to doing all of this is that kind of behavior that people do right before doing something drastic, like something life ruining and changing. The fact that he'll just cut all ties to everything he's ever owned like that, the whole nothing left to lose mentality, is absolutely fucking terrifying. She goes on saying that she would make it very clear that she didn't want to meet him, didn't want to be anywhere near him, but he would respond by just saying, "Liar, liar, fiance," and would make dancing videos reminiscent of Buffalo Bill dancing scene and send them to her. And then she posts a picture of it. This whole situation is deeply disturbing, and the fact that he would send videos to her privately is just super fucked up as well. literally just rubbing it in her face that he is stalking her and there's nothing she can do about it because the law enforcement wasn't acting very efficiently here, clearly. And then the picture she posts is also super eerie. It looks like something straight out of the SCP wiki. Like, it looks like a goddamn cryptid captured on photograph. It's just an awful, awful situation. She also briefly mentioned that he adopted a feral cat, which wasn't really seen again on the streams, and then says that on Monday the 13th, he streamed himself dressed up and carrying his musical instrument case and changed into formal attire and made the last mile journey to her house and cased the vicinity for 30 minutes, to which the cops declined to act. He streamed himself outside, mumbling about how he knew it was wrong, but he has to. And then he tried breaking in and tried to gain entry, to which Amaranth again called 911, says dispatch was rude, cutting her off, put her on hold, and it took 33 minutes for the 911 responders to finally get there. Amaranth did have armed personnel on standby at her residence, according to her, that would have acted if he successfully broke in. But luckily it didn't come down to that. Law enforcement did get there. He got arrested, got detained, and she says the embassy was contacted and he's currently not in Houston, and that's all she can share for now. Luckily this story has a somewhat happy ending. They got arrested and got kicked out of Houston, hopefully also put behind bars. But there's a lot more to talk about here that I'd like to get into, and that's the law enforcement's response to stalking. One thing that's remained consistent across every single story of a Twitch streamer sharing their personal experience with stalkers, the one thing that is a constant is that law enforcement doesn't do anything about it. In extremely rare cases, they'll allow them to get a restraining order, but even that's super uncommon, it seems. They just don't take it seriously. I understand, like, stalking and, like, trying to act on it as law enforcement is a pretty tough situation to be in because, it's not Minority Report where they can tell who's going to commit a crime before it happens or whatever. They're not Tom Cruise. And that's kind of the same thing here with stalking. They're trying to prevent a crime or an escalation without it having happened yet, so they don't have all of, like, the evidence to tell them, like, it's going to happen, so it makes it tough for them to actually act. But I really think in situations like this, they should be a lot more understanding and accepting of evidence. This guy streamed 44 days worth of continuous stalking and harassment, and it's all documented, all of it's shared, and yet they still didn't take it seriously until he showed up at the residence, and even when he was there actively trying to break in, they didn't show up for 33 minutes and didn't take it seriously. There needs to be some kind of new way of handling this kind of situation, or it's going to continue and get worse. Another streamer named Sweet Anita also had a similar problem with a stalker, except law enforcement was somehow even more inept here when it came to this situation. This stalker would publicly threaten her, send her threatening messages about how he's going to kill her, gut her, use a knife and slit her open, and just like crazy, unhinged shit. And in real life, would actually sit outside of her house and follow her around and even tried to assault her. And still, law enforcement didn't take it seriously for the longest fucking time. It's like law enforcement's hands are tied until they actually commit the crime and kill the person. But when there's this many red flags, why not act preventatively? Like, why not have a preventative measure in place? Like, okay, this guy's publicly making threats, sending these threats about how he's going to kill her, and is actively sitting outside her fucking house. Maybe we should do something about this individual. So yeah, I just think there needs to be some kind of system in place to be a bit harder on stalking, where when there's this much evidence of like threats and then like actually acting on some of the things they're saying in the real world, they need to take that more seriously and be harder on it. Like, if you actually show up, you're getting arrested. If you're within 5 miles of this person, you're getting arrested. Like I said, sometimes there's restraining orders, sometimes they trespass the individual, but even in those cases, it's pretty uncommon they even do that much. So I just think they need to be a little bit more intense on their stalking laws in order to prevent an actual tragedy from occurring. And it's happened before. There's plenty of cases where stalkers have been reported, law enforcement didn't act, and then the stalker ends up killing the victim. Most recently, I think it was last year, and I think this was in the UK, there was a teenager that reported a stalker 5 times and then even got fined 90 euros for wasting law enforcement's time, and then the stalker ended up killing them. Complete failure from the law enforcement there. And that's not an isolated case. It's happened before. I just think in general, there's more the law enforcement agencies can be doing to prevent something like that when it comes to stalking. And then another thing that I'd like to mention is why there seems to be so many stalkers on Twitch in particular. And I think that's because, and I've said this before, you're interacting directly with the streamer you're watching. So for mentally unwell individuals, they get this false sense that they're now friends, and in certain cases, lovers. So a lot of times you'll see these stalkers have the delusion that because they've donated to a streamer or they subbed to the streamer, they're now like romantically involved with each other. And that gives them some sense of entitlement. And when they realize that, the streamer doesn't feel that way about them and doesn't even know they exist, they start to get mad, lash out, and then you see all of these fucking wild, crazy messages and these threats that they'll make and these meltdowns. And it's terrible. You hate to see it. It's absolutely terrible. But it's not like the streamer's fault or anything. That's entirely just because there's so many people on Twitch. Some of them are bound to be mentally unwell and take these parasocial relationships to an extreme level. Parasocial relationships are bad, no exceptions, but they're even worse when the person believes they have control over the streamer or possession of them because they've donated money. Now they're dating and all of this, and then they find out that the streamer is romantically involved with someone else. In the real world, they lose it, go wild, and then ends up in these crazy stalking situations or whatever. It's just a terrible situation that's only been getting worse as Twitch continues to grow. It's not really a problem with the solution, though. There's not a whole lot Twitch can do to prevent that because they can't control the mental health of its users, right? And it's not the streamer's fault who are just streaming and then get someone that keeps donating to them and thinks that they're best friends or they're in love or something because of the money they've given. Like, there's not much you can really do there other than acknowledge, like, hey, look, I'm just a streamer. I appreciate the support and the generosity, but this doesn't make us friends. We're not in love. I don't know you. Ludwig had a whole video called I'm Not Your Friend where he just says, like, parasocial relationships are bad. I appreciate that you come to the streams and are generous, but I'm not your friend. And that's really all you can do as a streamer, but that's not going to solve the problem either. There's still going to be those people that cross that line and think that, oh, we're best friends now because I watch them every day or I give them money. And then it ends up in these very awful scenarios and like even creates stalkers in some cases. It's just bad all around, and I don't know the solution to it, but I just wanted to at least highlight that it is a problem, but will hopefully stop being a problem in the near future. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this whole subject, and that's about it. So yeah, Twitch chat is a place where common sense and reasoning goes to die. At least for the most part. There is some unhinged chatters out there, and I swear to God, some of them aren't even like real people. They feel like figments of an imagination from your worst nightmare, or like lobotomy victims all spouting some nonsensical garbage that isn't even related to what's happening in the stream. But now I'd like to introduce you to the final boss of unhinged Twitch chatter. This guy. Danny sent me this today, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, which is surprising, because this is one of those, like, weirder stories that I feel people would be talking about from Twitch. So this guy made a statement in an unnamed streamer's chat claiming that he was about to go kill some people in a mass shooting, and then he got arrested for it because the chatters warned the FBI, and they actually acted on it. So he said that mass murder was coming soon in the Twitch chat, and then they actually showed up and arrested this man, and he's now about to face some serious repercussions for this. This is also, surprisingly, like the first time I feel the FBI's ever acted on something like this. I can't remember which mass shooter it was, but one of the mass shooters had made a statement similar to this in a YouTube stream, and the FBI was tipped off about it. And they had already like identified that guy as a person of interest, and they still didn't act on it, and he actually did follow through and kill people. What mass shooter was that? Does anyone remember? Was it Nicholas Cruz? It might have been. But yeah, so I think this is a good thing. I am happy to hear that they took action about that. 100%. With everything that's been going on, this is a fat W. Huge L for this fucking loser, but like a big W for law enforcement. I'm glad they finally bothered to take any level of proactive action here, for sure. Now, when he was apprehended and questioned by authorities, he admitted that the account was his and that the comments were stupid, saying that he was in a dark place, kind of similar to like a YouTuber apology video, honestly. He was saying like he was depressed, intoxicated, and he was recently going through a loss in the family, so he made those comments, which isn't a justification at all for what he said. Like, it's sad to hear that he was going through such tough shit, but that doesn't at all excuse these kind of threats. And I do consider these threats now. This isn't just like nonsensical hoopla tossed out there. I no longer view it as it's just a prank, bro. It's just me goofing around being a little silly, threatening some mass murder. when there have been so many mass shootings, and like I mentioned in the stream, one case just like this where someone made a very similar threat and then followed through on it shortly thereafter. And you see so many times, like almost every time there's a mass shooter, the authorities come out and they're like, yeah, we actually knew that this guy was a threat. We also knew about the things he was saying online. Like, we actually even had him in our custody for a little while. We gave him a fist bump and told him, like, you know, it's all good now. We looked into your eyes, into the windows of your soul, and we decided you probably won't do it. And then he did it, so we were kind of shocked and almost betrayed that he did it. But yeah, we knew, like, all of these details. And then you always, like, are left scratching your head, like, well, why didn't you act on it? Like, maybe get guns away from that person or something. So even if this guy wasn't a legitimate threat, he wasn't some Gotham villain about to poison the water supply or start spouting riddles off to Batman, it's still good, and I view it as a very positive thing that the authorities went to investigate, to confirm whether or not this individual had plans to harm himself or others. I'm glad it wasn't a threat that was taken lightly or falling on deaf ears, just because I don't think there's any reason to take that chance anymore when something just like this happened and did lead to a lot of innocent deaths. So I do think this is a good thing, but I have seen a lot of people making the slippery slope argument about, well, if everyone's chats are being policed and you can be arrested for things you say anonymously in a chat room, that could lead to a lot of other things where people are getting punished for really minor offenses. And I can kind of see where that stance is coming from, that perspective, because, for example, E-Rob, who is a Twitch streamer, nay, that's doing him a disservice. He's more than a streamer, he's a goddamn icon. E-Rob made a joke with one of his viewers in his offline Twitch chat about beating him up at TwitchCon. It was just a threat made in jest between two people that knew each other, and E-Rob got reported for it in the offline chat, and Twitch banned him for a whole month because of that threat, even though it was just a joke. And they didn't fall back on the ban. He spent the entire time in the slammer, in purgatory, unable to stream, all because he made that joke that was taken to the principal's office by the hall monitor, and he was unjustly disciplined for it. So I can see why people would then take this situation where this man was arrested after his threats and blow it up to a bigger scale where if this is more commonplace, who's to say authorities won't start just striking people down for really small things without looking at like the bigger context or even bothering to see if they were joking or whatever. Like I do kind of understand where that's coming from, but I still think at the end of the day, it'd be very dangerous and stupid to ignore threats like this guy was making. Multiple threats about mass murder coming soon, killing 20 people, shit like that. He made himself sound like he was just gonna be fucking piling up corpses in the street. Like that is something that I don't think should be taken lightly and shouldn't be ignored. So I am happy they stepped in for that. So I do hope they continue to take threats like this seriously because it could very well prevent a tragedy. This isn't the only time a mass shooter has advertised their upcoming crimes. And while this guy may not have had any plans to do it, some of the other ones have and have followed through on it, and authorities didn't act until it was too late. Now this does bring me to an extremely important point to mention with this whole subject, and that's the curious case of Josh Palault, whom I've made a video on and who's been on our podcast twice now because his situation was so unique and fascinating and just at times downright diabolical. This shit grabs your nipples and fucking titty twisters them. Like his whole case, his situation and everything is unreal to believe that it actually happened. And it's very similar to what we're talking about right now. Josh, quite a long time ago while playing RuneScape and drinking, made a threat on the game about a school shooting. You know, don't go to school the next day, that kind of thing. And the Jagex, the company behind RuneScape, the developers, got tipped off to what Josh had said, and they forwarded that information to the authorities. So then the authorities scoot in sideways, kick down the door, throw the cuffs on him, and then absolutely steam his fucking ham. He received 6 years in prison. This was not a light sentence by any means. 6 full years, which he served the entire term of, because they determined that they had reason to believe he was like an actual possible threat. And I'm not going to get into like the actual nitty-gritty of the case, but with all the information out there, it feels like it was an extreme case of corruption here that led to him receiving a 6-year punishment. He was a kid who was drinking and saying some stupid, edgy shit online, and it doesn't seem like there was any real evidence to suggest that he was going to go out and hurt people or do anything horrible, that he was just making those shitty, edgy threats. Now, I do think it was right that they stepped in to investigate, just to be sure and just to be safe, But then after they go through the whole song and dance of the investigation, they should have reached the conclusion that this is just an edgy troll. And yes, of course, get slapped with some kind of penalty or charge about making like ridiculous threats online. That's completely fine and understandable. But 6 years because they viewed him like a fucking terrorist made no sense. So I do think with a case like what we were talking about today initially, and comparing it to Josh Palalt's case, I do think that there is a level that needs to be had from the authorities where they take these threats seriously, but then they also have to be fair with the investigation, where if they determine it's just some edgy asshole with no real or imminent threat to the people around them, well then charge them for the threats, but don't go the extra mile with this vendetta, this grudge against them where you just want to see them behind bars forever. Now in the case that we're talking about today with the Twitch chatter who made these threats of mass murder, he's currently facing charges of written threats to kill or do bodily harm. Now, that seems to fit the crime. That seems like a punishment that fits the crime. That's exactly what he did. They determined he didn't have any firearms, and they seem confident that he was never actually going to carry out these things. Thus, he's just being charged with the threats of doing these things as opposed to, like, the potential act of doing them. So, I think that overall this whole thing is a good thing from the authorities. It doesn't seem like they're making the same mistake they made with Josh Palalt here, where they try and throw the whole book at him, just get the whole kit and caboodle tossed his way. It seems like they know very much what's happening here. They took it seriously, and they're pursuing charges that I think are appropriate for what they've done. Now, I just wanted to talk about this situation because I thought this was a pretty important one. Again, if this was a very unwell individual who was going to carry out something terrible like this, then this would have absolutely just saved lives. And regardless, I think it is still a good precedent to set where you shouldn't be making these kind of stupid, reckless, dangerous threats online in the first place. Like, I do think this charge that he's facing for it is appropriate, and I just wanted to talk about that. That's about it. See ya. Let's just call it like it is. We'll be honest with each other a little heart to heart. No reason to pull any punches. There's a lot of weirdos in Twitch chat. I might even be talking about you specifically. Maybe you're one of the goofballs I'm referring to. And unfortunately today, one of these weirdos crossed a line and became a criminal. A streamer by the name of Just Foxy had her car lit on fire by an arsonist who was a stalker of hers from Twitch chat. This deranged imbecile drove 700 miles to this streamer's house to try and meet her, I suppose, and then eventually set her car on fire. Brother, I wouldn't drive 700 miles to drink from the fountain of youth. This is crazy shit. This is unhinged behavior, obviously. I believe this is a case of a parasocial, obsessed fan. At least that's the impression I get from the story, because this kind of thing has unfortunately happened before in the past. It's horrifying.
I watched him put a brick on my car, on the hood, and some pot. And he lit something sticking out of it and walked away casually, like he didn't do anything. The next clip after that was the front end of my car engulfed in flames. The firefighters came very quickly, and I'm very thankful for that, because the fire spread to the fence and burnt the side of my house as well, which my mom and animals were inside of.
Now, Just Foxy does have security cameras around her house, and she was able to capture the entire incident. So this was a big say cheese moment, because she caught this guy in 4K for the Criminal Cringe compilation, and according to her, he was also arrested. But she hasn't posted anything about the individual or the arrest yet, because clearly it's an ongoing and very sensitive case. But she did post the CCTV footage from the event, so I'll go ahead and show you the raw footage of it. Goober alert, goober alert. He tries to put on like a disguise here, so he's got a mask and a hat pulled down real low, but it's pretty inefficient because it still looks like he's got some patchy ass mutton chops there. So I'm pretty excited to see his mugshot to see what he looks like, though I can already wager a guess that it's not pleasant. So this little worm sets up the arson cupcake and lights the birthday candle and waddles away, and it engulfs the car in flames. This does not appear to be his first rodeo with arson. He was very casual about the whole thing. It also appears that this was premeditated. He traveled 700 miles with this as his primary goal, to light her shit on fire. Because this doesn't appear to be a contraption that he just MacGyvered together with like fucking sticks, glue, and spit. This appears like he traveled with all the materials he'd need to commit arson. Though I'm not an expert, I'm just speculating. Obviously, this whole thing is pretty traumatic, not only for just Foxy, but her family. I mean, like she mentioned, the flames did spread to the house, and the mom and animals were in the house at the time that all of this went down. So, just a really scary situation overall.
I just never thought that when I started streaming back in 2015 that something like this would ever happen to me.
It is super sad. It is something that most people aren't going to think about when they start streaming, because I imagine most people, myself included, go into a stream assuming that everyone that's watching them is just there to be entertained and nothing further. Everyone's, mentally stable. There's not going to be any kind of fishy business or anything weird afoot. But unfortunately, it's just becoming more and more common for viewers to form this parasocial relationship with the content and the creators that they enjoy watching. And I think that plays a large part into a situation like this, where that parasocial relationship becomes an obsession. And then it becomes a stalker. And then it becomes this. And it's fucking scary. By no means is it just Foxy's fault. Unfortunately, this has happened a couple of times in the past. Like Amaranth, a little while back, had a stalker in a similar situation where the stalker drove fucking, tons of miles to her house and lit her trash on fire to try and burn down her house. Literally just like fucking cremate the place she lives. Somehow that would work in his favor so they could live happily ever after or some shit. It's deranged. It's scary. Amaranth also had another stalker that sold all of his worldly possessions on the other side of the world, literally gave away all of his corporeal belongings, so that way he could move closer to Amaranth so he could stalk her more efficiently. It's fucking scary. There are people like that, unfortunately, on Twitch, and I feel like a lot of people outside of the streaming space don't really understand that. So I want to tackle a couple of conspiracies that have sprouted up from this whole situation, because somehow Twitter brain rot found a new way of shocking me with the stupidity. There were a lot of people claiming that this is all baloney. This is a bunch of nonsense mumbo jumbo. She's faking everything. There were people just outright denying that the CCTV footage was even real. They were literally covering their eyes and plugging their ears, like acting as though the CCTV footage doesn't exist of the guy literally burning her car down. So I don't even know where to start. You are too far gone if you think that this is somehow CGI or deep-faked. That's ridiculous. And then the next big conspiracy theory is that it's all an insurance scam from Just Foxy, which is a crazy take. Because for the insurance scam to have worked here, she would have shot herself in the foot by filming it, because now there is a person there. There is a person in the footage, and that person has been arrested, according to Just Foxy. And if this was all an insurance scam, that guy would squeal. He would absolutely be like, she paid me to do it, this is all just an insurance scam. Like, everything would crumble. It would be a terrible insurance scam idea to film your own insurance scam, which is why insurance scammers usually don't want the video evidence. Like, that's usually what unwinds and untangles a scam like that. So that would be a crazy plot twist if somehow this was all an insurance scam, because there would be so many things wrong with that theory. And then the other thing I keep seeing from people, which absolutely shows me the majority of the internet is actually 9 years old now, is them saying like, why does she care? She's got insurance. She'll just get the car right back, or, things like that. What do you mean? Does insurance also cover the trauma of having a complete stranger go and set your shit on fire in the middle of the night and nearly kill your mom and dog as well? Like, what are you talking about? Even if insurance does cover the cost of the car, that doesn't take away the entire situation. That doesn't just erase the memories like a neuralizer from Men in Black. Like, that doesn't solve the situation. What the fuck? Like, you'd probably cry if somebody, like, came over and took a fucking Cheeto out of your bag of Cheetos that you're eating right now. Like, it doesn't make any sense to try and write off this whole situation. Like, who cares? Insurance is there for a reason. It's so fucking stupid. People are so desperate for everything to be an argument, or so desperate to feel special and intelligent, like I'm the only galaxy brain that was big enough to piece together the real puzzle behind the scenes. This is not a clear-cut case of arson like everyone seems to think. It goes much deeper than that. And then vomiting out the dumbest fucking ideas ever. It's just infuriating because on the video she posted about it, the comment section is an absolute mess. MoistCr1tikal made a video about this just recently, and he pointed out a lot of the comments, so I went to check, and there's even more now. Like, the video is heavily disliked with her just sharing her experience with this very awful event that happened to her, and there's so many people just saying she deserved it for being on Twitch, or it's all just a lie, it's ridiculous, you won't fool me. It's so fucking dumb. There is no such thing as innocent until proven guilty here. I don't think she's guilty of some kind of conspiratorial giant insurance scam. That would be nuts. Like, all of it just is so ridiculous. I don't know how we got to this point where everyone wants to make everything a problem. Like, no, we can't agree that your car being set on fire and your house almost burning down is a bad thing. In fact, here's why it's a good thing and you deserved it. Like, what the fuck? Like, how terminally online and ill can you be to actually have that take? But yeah, horrible situation. I wanted to talk about it a little bit. This apparently happened like a week or so ago, and she just now released the information about it because she's been dealing with the aftermath of the situation. So I'm excited to see more details from the arrest because I really want to see the guy's mugshot. I'm very excited for that. And yeah, that's really about it. Terrible shit all around, and that's it. So yeah. Hey, how are you? Are you having a good day? I hope so. And I hope you won't be mad at me if I try and change that real quick. I want to put a very yucky TikTok creep on your radar, and it's someone I'm sure some of you have heard of over the last year or so. He's become a bit of an infamous boogeyman that a lot of people have talked about. Most notably, Oompaville made a whole video on him, kind of breaking down all of the awful degenerate shit he's done. He was actually quite popular. He had over 1 million followers on there. His initial account was called Snapshot Eye. He then had to make other ones in lieu of a lot of allegations that came out and a lot of information that went public. His real name is Paul Breach, which is fitting because he keeps breaching the restraining order parents have against them to protect the safety of their children online. I'm only kidding about that. I don't know if there's any actual restraining orders against him. Even if there were, it would mean nothing to him. You can't teach the breach. He's going to continue to flirt and act inappropriately with underage kids on TikTok. It's all he knows, damn it. So, Paul Breach is an alleged predator, but a confirmed creep. And I'm not here to just go over all of the allegations. There's quite a few videos that cover them extraordinarily well. The reason I'm talking about him is he's blowing up yet again thanks to a clip of his that just went viral. This is during one of his nightmarish TikTok lives.
Oh, there's a plane crashed in Tanzania. Go flying into the lake.
So he gets this tragic news and immediately goes right back into lip syncing and shit. Now keep in mind, this man is in his 40s. Now, I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. You can look at him and immediately deduce this isn't exactly a teenage boy here doing this cringe-ass lip sync shit. Terrorists have infiltrated a local Burger King. Oh, jeez. And they're slitting the throat of the hostages. Jinkies. Hey, prayers to the families. And I'm sure after just seeing this, you're probably not surprised to learn that he's got a very foul past. So, he's no spring chicken. He's in his 40s here, and he constantly engages inappropriately with young girls in his audience, and it's something he's come under heavy scrutiny for a long time. He's actually somewhat of a pseudo-celebrity in the UK, where people sometimes have gone out of their way to find him and make fun of him directly to his face. Sometimes there's even like in the wild spottings like Bigfoot where they'll start filming him and then go up and start insulting him. And it's become something of a beloved pastime over the last year. It died down once he kind of fell off, but now that this clip is blowing up again, I've seen that his channel on TikTok, at least the one I believe is still his, is getting quite a bit more traction from it. Even though this isn't necessarily the newest clip, it is a very silly and surprising one that a lot of people have had their curiosity piqued by, so went out of their way to find more from him. Thus, Paul Breach, the cockroach, continues to somewhat thrive. His whole shtick is posting thirst traps, even though if you're thirsty, this isn't gonna quench it. What he's doing is just gonna be putting sand in your mouth and making it worse, like giving you the fucking cinnamon challenge. What he posts is the opposite of a thirst trap. It is alarming. He is way too old to be doing this garbage. And I don't mean to be mean and rude, but he's not exactly a 10 out of 10 looking gentleman here. It's also worth mentioning this kind of thing isn't uncommon for his streams, though it is probably his most preposterous moment ever recorded. To go from horrible news right back into his god-awful thirst trapping.
Oh, bless you, love. Bless you. Love.
I just wanted to show you another clip of how unhinged his TikTok lives are. So sometimes he'll just play sound effects to give the impression that there's other people around him, always women. This one, I don't even understand what the thought process was. I think he sat on a whoopee cushion to make a fart noise, as if it was like a girl over there farting, and he's like, oh goodness, hey now, that butthole's not meant to be usable, it's just supposed to be aesthetic for me. Girls shouldn't be fucking farting. Despicable. And then he plays a very clearly stock sneeze sound effect, and then goes even further, love? And then like gets like angry about it, it seems.
Fucking hell. Jacob, thanks for the follow. So much. That is a fucking cracking impression of me, love. How you do that?
It's actually one of the saddest goddamn things imaginable. To be so fucking lonely that you have to fake interaction around you on a TikTok live stream where people go there mainly to make fun of you, because by this point he had already become kind of like a TikTok spittoon for people to stop in and spit a loogie into. But like I mentioned, unfortunately there were a few young fans that would reach out to him, and he would always reciprocate being flirtatious. He even got called out on this pretty often, way before like he had to take his account down. I think he got banned. I don't think he took it down. But there were always people taking notice of like, Paul, why do you always just reply to like these really young girls?
Why do you only talk to girls in the comments? Because it's only the girls that are commenting, and if it's a comment from a guy, I say hi. I don't know. Maybe because I'm dating them all and we're having babies. Only to the ones I'm married to, which is all of them.
Who could have imagined that the 40-something-year-old man making thirst traps aimed at children would turn out to be a real weirdo? I can't believe it. It's always the ones you least expect, am I right? I'd also like to show you another one of his clips that's somewhat blowing up right now. This is apparently one that he sent directly to a fan, and it is so uncomfortable to watch.
Lainey, smile. That is an order. And then jump in a cold bath. Get yourself smiling, get yourself happy. I've been a moody little, for a little while, and that is just stupid on my behalf. So I apologise if anything I've ever done has brought you in low mood. I know I was an idiot at the start of the week, and I've taken steps to fix that. But you need to smile, you need to be happy. You've got a beautiful smile. Please use it, perhaps.
His brain just blue screens there for a moment. Windows had to have a hard reset there. He had his own little Mitch McConnell moment during this message that he sent to one of his fans.
It's always nice to get a message from your sweet. And it's always lovely to see that smile.
What an uplifting video. I know you're sad, but have you tried not being sad and just smiling? Because I'm ordering you to. In fact, you don't have a choice. Smile. And you will feel better, because it'll make me feel better. And you should be happy when I'm happy. Damn it. I don't know, everything about this guy is really weird. So, since he is blown up recently, I just wanted to at least make people aware of who he is and his past, because he's not exactly just some, like, goofy guy. He's an unhinged, weird guy with a lot of serious accusations against them. And I've only just begun to scratch the surface of how awful a lot of the things he's being accused of are. And a lot of them he's never denied or anything at all, really. He just buries his head and pushes forward, doing more lip-syncing and bad dancing. And people have confronted him directly, and he still never really denies any of it. It's hard to explain, and the whole point of this video was just to let you all know, Paul Breach sucks. That's about it. See ya. I moved a few more things around in my room, but now I'm positioned directly under this light, and the shadows on my face make me seem like I'm sitting in an interrogation chamber from LA Noire. Looks like that scene from The Dark Knight when Batman keeps hitting the Joker's head on the table. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but for now it's going to have to do. I'm just going to be looking a little odd here. Last year, I was talking about an ongoing situation with an obsessed Twitch viewer that ended up taking a 700-mile journey like he was going down the Oregon Trail, fording rivers and battling dysentery, to arrive at a Twitch streamer's house he was obsessed with, her name is Just Foxy, to light her car on fire, and seemingly trying to light the entire house on fire, because this was a blazing inferno. It was a big fire. Now, at the time, there was a lot of information still unknown. All we had was some of the surveillance camera footage, which I'll briefly show you. But I just learned 10 days ago, a YouTube channel called Midwest Safety posted the entire body cam of the situation as well as that Twitch chatter's arrest.
On my car, on the hood, and some pot. And he lit something sticking out of it and walked away casually, like he didn't do anything. The next clip after that was the front end of my car engulfed in flames. The firefighters came very quickly, and I'm very thankful for that because the fire spread to the fence and burnt the side of my house as well.
Now, at the time, we didn't know too much about the individual behind it, but now, a year later, I know more about this guy than I do some of my own cousins. So his name is Farhan Jami. He has been arrested, and we know his fate. Spoiler alert, it's a prison sentence. And we have the body cam footage where he is looking like a pathetic fucking goober. But before showing you the body cam footage, I'll go ahead and tell you what the motivation was, because I imagine a lot of you were able to piece it together, kind of sniff it out. He was one of Just Foxy's big donators. He had apparently donated a lot of money over a period of time, and then found out she had a boyfriend, and was so upset by that he flew out to her area, then drove to her house to set her car on fire as a way of getting revenge.
The suspect, wearing a loose-fitting pair of lighter-colored sweatpants, latex gloves, a darker-colored shirt, a hat, and a mask, sets a box-shaped object on the vehicle. He then sets another object on top of it with a fuse-like wire sticking out of it. The suspect lights it with a lighter and walks away, which leads to the entire front end of the vehicle being engulfed in flames.
Here's the director's cut of the arson, and you get a good look at him and the device that he made. Dude made a goddamn Fortnite gadget here for this fire. He made a certified whatchamahooza. It's like a fucking kids next door contraption for this fire. It's like a bucket and a fuse and a brick, and then he sets it on fire and it burns the whole car down and spreads a bit to the house.
This officer, as well as many others in the area, both on foot and patrolling in their vehicles, all begin to look for any suspicious people in the vicinity. 10 minutes later, officers find a vehicle parked on the side of the road, only about 2 minutes away from the crime scene.
What's going on?
Not exactly a criminal super genius here, not the mastermind you'd read about from like a comic book. So the guy commits this crime, and then he drives 2 minutes away from the scene of the crime and takes a bit of a snooze, or at least pretends to sleep. You don't expect a lot of intelligence from some deranged lunatic like this, but you would expect someone that just committed a serious felony to at least have the wherewithal to drive further away. But instead, he just stays at the scene of the crime, basically, and just tries to catch some Z's. Maybe he was just so satisfied with himself that he just needed to pass out for some wet dreams. Like, I don't know what the thought process could have possibly been, but that's him. He was parked just 2 minutes away from this place in the same neighborhood.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. Just wanted to rest up a little bit. I have a long drive.
Why are you doing it out here?
No reason.
Hey, keep your hand up.
I'm just putting my seat up.
Well, keep your hands up. Where do you live?
I'm from New York.
You're from New York?
Yeah.
What are you doing out here?
Just came to visit a friend, really.
Where's the friend live?
Down in Cincinnati, but he's working, like, doing some construction over here.
This guy's a smooth talker. He's got the silver tongue here. He's weaving some very intricate lies. I'm here visiting a friend. That's really kind of the best he's got for that. So why are you sleeping in a random neighborhood if you're here to visit a friend? It's just so good that he happens to be a fucking giant turbo idiot. Because he gets caught immediately. Thank heavens. He didn't get away with this crime at all. And this whole scenario with him only gets even more ridiculous. He is so fucking stupid, it is shocking.
So why did you decide to just pull off in a neighborhood to sleep? I'm so confused.
Because I drove 40 miles here, and I literally came like an hour ago, and I was like shot, and so I just needed to knock out.
So you just pull off into a random neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, it was right off of the street, whatever it is. I just kind of I really didn't know where to go. And I'm sorry if like they called the cops or something because they probably thought I was, I don't know, doing something weird here. But I swear, like I'm not doing anything crazy out of left field or anything.
You mind if we search your car?
No, please go for it.
He might actually be the worst liar ever. Playing Among Us with this guy must have been just the freest dubs of all time. He cannot spin a coherent story even slightly, and everything he says gets proven wrong within 10 minutes. It's the quickest speed run I've seen for someone's lies getting debunked in a body cam.
The reason why I ask is because there was somebody who set a car on fire.
Who set a car on fire?
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? Like, how do you set a car on fire?
They set the car on fire.
Like they lit the gas tank? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Jiminy Christmas. What do you mean they set a car on fire? How do you even do that? Is that even possible? Can cars even be on fire? Like what did he do? Like set the gas on fire? The gas tank? Oh, goodness gracious. Ooh, wow, that's not good. Like, what, you telling me, like, maybe put, like, a box on the hood with a bucket on top and a fuse and then lit that on fire, which burned the whole car down, and the car happened to belong to a Twitch streamer or something? Like something like that? That's crazy shit. Whew. Some people, am I right, officer? We gotta be careful. There's psychos out there. Fist bump. Like, this is not even a human way of reacting to something. He is an actual NPC. He's trying so hard to be, like, surprised by it that it gets into, like, fucking Neil Breen level acting. Like, this right here is something you'd see from Tommy Wiseau's The Room. Oh, geez, how's your sex life? It's so odd, and I feel like the officer immediately knew right then and there, like, yeah, this is the guy. Who would possibly respond to this information like that?
I came because I landed at CVG, and I drove. It's like 40 miles, and I was already shot from the freaking flight.
So where does your friend live?
Somewhere like down there, but he works up here. But no, like something like that. I honestly just made the first right off that road. Made the first right because I was like, yo, I need a place to just knock out for 30 minutes, and it ended up being a few hours. But yeah, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody here.
This officer has now sent a picture from the surveillance footage that shows the suspect, so he can compare it to this man they're investigating.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's good. Yeah, my friend, he's like down over there. I was up over here and then got all scrambled around, and then I just got a little sleepy, so I pulled on over into this neighborhood to take a little 30-minute nap, turned into a few hours. Oh, also, this guy, Goofball, he openly just said multiple times the officers can search his car if they'd like. So obviously they were going to, and they found some pretty incriminating stuff. And then the officers get sent a picture from the surveillance camera, and now they have a picture of the guy in the act of the crime, and they have the guy right there. So now they can look at that picture and look at the guy and see if they match up. And guess what? They match up pretty well.
It's about the same outfit. I want to see if there's a mask in here.
Here's your COVID mask.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a lighter in here. He's got a torch lighter. Yeah, there's a torch lighter and a blue COVID mask in the center console. There's no luggage. There's no backpack.
Yeah, there's no hat.
It's not the hardest game of Where's Waldo when you have the picture of the guy committing the crime and a guy that looks exactly like it standing in front of you. He's wearing the exact same outfit. And in the car, after getting permission from the guy to search the car, they find a COVID mask as well, which also fits the disguise that the criminal was wearing. The only thing they don't find is a hat. But it's not like the hat is a fucking mask from Mission Impossible where it fully hides his identity. It's not exactly, concealing who he is. It'd be like me putting these glasses on and people going like, where the fuck did Charlie go? He just vanished. Who is that? Who's sitting in his seat right now? Like the hat isn't enough for officers to be like, yeah, it can't be the same guy. He's not wearing a hat. Must be someone else. He must have gone the other way. We got the wrong guy here. But they do still do their due diligence in finding the hat in order to 100% put this in the books that they know they have the right guy.
He's got a beard,
sure.
he's got the same clothing, he's got the reflective shoes, everything.
Situation down the street where you lit something that caught on fire.
No.
I'm gonna point blank ask you.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. I understand that you're over here visiting friends, but you parked over here for a reason. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
It's not me.
That's not you?
No.
It sure looks like you and everything you're wearing.
It's not me.
That's not you, huh? Look a little closely.
His poker face is too strong. Even when confronted with the overwhelming evidence, they even show him a picture of himself. He goes, nope, that's not me. It's actually that scene from SpongeBob with Man Ray and Patrick when it came to Man Ray giving Patrick's wallet back.
While searching the area around the suspect's car, officers found multiple plastic bags with a hat, multiple sets of latex gloves, and another mask within them, not even 10 feet away from the vehicle, underneath a pine tree.
Got his gloves and everything. Yep.
Holy shit, how did they even find that? It was so well hidden. It was like finding the One Piece. Ferran did an extraordinary job of burying the evidence by putting it 10 feet away from his car next to a tree. You could have probably seen that by accident just by looking at his car. It was that close to it in plain sight. So they found the hat and everything else that was used in the crime. And so they take it to Ferran saying like, hey man, we found the bag that you tried to hide. Do you want to just confess to it now, or do we have to keep playing this game? Are we still going to go through this song and dance?
Can you explain why no more than 10 feet from your car is a hat that matches the exact picture from the suspect in the video?
I can't, but
Are your fingerprints going to be on that bag?
maybe, I don't know.
Is your DNA going to be in that hat?
It shouldn't.
Okay, so there's no way your DNA can be in that hat. So when we test it, we're not going to find your DNA in there.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't, no.
Okay. I guess I'm a little confused. This is a pretty random, off the beaten
Just so
path
you know,
area.
I did see people walking around it.
Okay, this is a very random area to be.
Just when you thought the chess master was caught in between a rock and a hard place in a checkmate position, he flips the board around on you. You see, he just cooked up a really smart story here. Just so you know, I did see people walking around here. That's good. We never even stopped to think that he could be being framed by people that happen to be walking around this neighborhood at 3 a.m. That is food for thought. We might need to play with that narrative here, that storyline. Actually, I do kind of want to toy with that a little bit. I want to slap the cheeks around on it. Let's experiment here. So you mean to tell me that the criminal in the video that you have seen, that's not you. There just happens to be another person of the exact same build, wearing the exact same clothing that you're wearing, with the exact same beard, with the exact same hair. The only difference is they had their COVID mask on instead of in the center console, and they had a hat. And the real criminal, your doppelganger, was also happening to be walking around at 3 a.m. in the same neighborhood that you decided to randomly park in to take a nap while visiting your imaginary friend. That's the story you're trying to sell me on right here.
Yes. Now look, when I was asleep, somebody might have come thrown a bag there. I don't know.
We'll be back with you in a bit, okay?
I got pretty much everything over here that says you got gloves and a mask. In the other bag, you have gloves, a receipt, a mask, something else, and a hat. So this is everything he was wearing.
So they've got pretty much everything here, and yet there is still more that they gather to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's this guy. They not only have everything he was wearing and everything he used, despite him saying that his DNA shouldn't be on there, which, by the way, isn't even him saying it won't be, because he's still leaving the door open for the possibility that it might be. Like, what the fuck? How could it be there if it's not yours? Like, what happens? Your doppelganger came through, broke into your car while you were sleeping and took some of your hair or grabbed some of your spit while you were asleep and rubbed it all over the material, so that's how your DNA can show up there even though it's not yours? Like, what the fuck? He's not even saying that it won't be. He's saying that it shouldn't be. But I'm already getting off on another tangent for this fucking awful fanfic that he's weaving. But not only do they have all of the material that he was using, they then also have other surveillance camera footage from other houses that confirm he didn't get there at midnight like he claims.
People who live in this area also have surveillance footage that caught the specific times that the suspect parked on the street. Officers discuss these specific times and relate them to the suspect's claim of being parked there since midnight.
2:21 is when it got lit. 2:27 is when they're saying they saw the video of him coming in here. So him being here since midnight is not correct.
So you said you came out here around 12, around midnight? They got video of you pulling in here around 225. You've been lying to us from the start, man. So we're taking you back to the PD.
I know the evidence is overwhelming, but I'm not the guy that did this. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just not the guy who gets my hands dirty, you know? Like, it's just not me.
A convincing argument from Ferran here, but the evidence was too much. Every single piece of his story was proven wrong, all in the time span of like 20 minutes maybe. They not only got the accurate time for when he really did pull up, which was minutes after setting the car ablaze, but they also found all of the pieces of clothing and items used in the crime as well, and a picture of him at the crime. So, I think they've got the right guy, I'm pretty confident to say, and he was sentenced to 46 months in prison for this crime. So yeah, just wanted to give you a follow-up to all of it. That's about it. So yeah. Stand back, I'm being brave. Stalkers are bad. Just deranged individuals, absolute sick weirdos. And I just learned about a new stalker I didn't know existed until Matt sent me this video where he went to court and immediately just proclaimed he's guilty as charged. It's Caitlin Clark's stalker. And this guy looks like he was biologically engineered to end up as a lunatic stalker. He looks exactly like what you imagine, like that caricature you make in your head, of an obsessed loser.
Morning, Mr. Lewis.
Guilty as
No, sir. This is initial hearing.
Oh.
We are not. You have a right to remain silent, and I expect you to exercise that. Okay, this is just telling you what the charges are. You do not listen. I'll give you a chance to talk. Not your time.
Throw me the bookie.
Stop talking.
Buddy really thought this was going to be like his Joker moment. I bet he thought that line went really hard. Or maybe he really does recognize that the world is a better place with him locked away, because he is begging the judge to just throw the book at him. Buddy stares right down the pipe on the camera, so I'm guessing he wanted to make like a famous moment for himself out of all of this. He looks like Charles Manson if he had a Funko Pop addiction.
Charging documents lay out how prosecutors say a man, quote, terrorized, frightened, and intimidated one of the country's most popular athletes. Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark. Michael Lewis faces a felony stalking charge after allegedly traveling to Indianapolis to be near her.
Now, Mr. Looney Lewis was sending threatening and sexual messages to Caitlin Clark on Twitter, mainly. And the messages, or at least some of them, are still there. Like, some of the tweets are still there. It's a ton. He very much was infatuated with her, obsessed, and even traveled to Indianapolis to be close to her. Very dangerous, unhinged shit. His most recent messages are kind of nonsensical gibberish, though I can make out the first one there, which is, "You buyin'?" Very much sounds like the Resident Evil 4 weapons merchant. But the one after that, "You be coffalogopus, okay?" Don't know what the fuck that is. He must have just flopped his meat on the keyboard and just hit enter. That is actual nothingness. And then as you continue to scroll through his tweets, they become a little more lucid, and they are almost always directed at Caitlin Clark, directly to her, except for these two right there, where I guess he was arguing with someone. And then it's right back onto his life's mission of being in this imaginary relationship with Caitlin Clark. This is the people you're arguing with on Twitter, by the way. Assuming they're not just bots, which a lot of the platform is. The actual flesh, blood, and cringe that are just constantly fighting on Twitter like professional tweeters. This is what they look like in real life, by the way. Anyway, though, if you just scroll through his fucking Twitter, it's nothing but him talking about being with Caitlin Clark. He also has this fixation on making out. He constantly mentions, "You want to make out with me? When are we making out? Hey, let's start making out." He speaks as though the only thing he's ever watched in his life is Degrassi, and now he's under the impression that that's how people talk to one another. It's so odd. It's so weird. It just goes on and on and on. Like, these are all from the same day. Do you even like to make out? And the one before that is, once again, no spaces. Your puss needs a real good pounding. You're not into like, it's absolute insanity. He is very clearly a textbook definition of a dangerous stalker. He even went to her area to be near her. And I'm absolutely shocked that the authorities did something. They don't usually take stalking super seriously, but in this case, he's getting charged. They apprehended him, and it looks like they are going to throw the bookie at him, as he said, which I think is great. They may have just saved her life, because these kind of people, they snap. We've seen this shit happen tons and tons of times. And how many stories have we, like on the channel, gone over where stalkers weren't taken seriously and then something really bad happened, and then all of a sudden the most preventable tragedy ever unfolds. So I'm happy to see they're actually doing something about this.
Police say he admitted it is a, quote, imaginary relationship, with dozens of posts on X directly tagging Clark, including a number of threatening and sexually explicit messages, according to prosecutors, even posting after an initial encounter with police. An attorney for Lewis hasn't been listed online.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. Usually I'm wrong, but in this case, I feel very confident. I think he's going to represent himself. I'm very certain of it. I think he's going to waive his right to an attorney and say, fuck it, we'll do it live, and he's going to do it himself. That's my prediction. We'll see how it unfolds, but I just wanted to lock that one in, so if it happens, I look like a goddamn prophet for it. Now, even outside of that short video clip, it doesn't seem the rest of the proceeding was a slam dunk for him. It was clear from just that short 30 seconds the judge was already really fed up with that behavior, but he continued to have other outbursts. He even contradicted himself, claiming that the prosecutors got the wrong guy because they didn't attach Junior to his name. Overall, he just wasn't treating it very seriously, even though he could face up to like 6 years in jail from what I was reading. But he just doesn't seem to give a fuck. So he's from Texas and apparently lives in his vehicle, drove it to Indianapolis, and was arrested at a hotel in Indianapolis after posting the messages and saying things like, getting tickets, I'm sitting behind the bench. And then he even makes this tweet here, which references that they are actively coming for him. They said I was sending threatening texts, but the only thought on my mind was, Caitlin! Caps lock. Interestingly enough, I went to the first tweet from Michael Lewis, and it's from January 7th. So he hasn't really been doing this for all that long, but every single tweet since January 7th, all 887 of them, pretty much, are directed to Caitlin Clark. So his first one, no greater love than to lay down your life, ... So he's a relatively new stalker. He's still in his rookie season here. He's been doing it for about 2 weeks, and it was so egregious that authorities are actually acting on it, which is a good thing. I also think there's a chance that this isn't his first time stalking. After going through so many of his tweets, I feel like he's probably done this to others, but not on this account. I feel like he probably makes accounts like this. The name of this account is RacerX2031. That's an Xbox Live generated gamer tag, basically. That's fucking nothing. So I bet he probably makes specific accounts for the sole purpose of stalking individuals, and this one was for Caitlin Clark, his most recent obsession. But I just get the feeling he's definitely done this in the past, too. That's just a hunch, though. Either way, really good news that he has been taken in by authorities. Fucking weirdo stalker. That's really about it. See ya.